Hello everyone and welcome back to our Vidit Candidates 2024 round 2. My name is Nitzan Steinberg, Grandmaster, and I'm here with you to recap round 2. Four decisive games, unbelievable round this was, and it will be very interesting to see these brilliant games with such strong opponents and players, grandmaster from all over the world, India, US, France, Azerbaijan, Russia, and it will be very good and learning from these videos. So I hope you will enjoy. Please don't forget to do a subscribe for my new YouTube channel. It will really help me and improve my skills. Of course, you are more than welcome to do a like and also comment if you have questions, everything you want. Just feel free to connect. So let's see the first game of this round with white pieces, our legend and the player that I want to win this candidate tournament, Praggnanandhaa against his friend from the same country, Gukesh. So let's see the game: d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, knight f6, g3. This is the Catalan opening. And now Gukesh is playing the move bishop b4. Check, of course. After bishop b4, there are several moves. Bishop d2, one of them. And there is here bishop e7 or bishop d6 or maybe a5 also a move. Also, an option for white is to play knight bd2, castle I think, or maybe d takes c4 if I'm not wrong. D takes c4, bishop g2, castle, and b5. A lot of theory here, but yeah, it's one of the options for white. But Prague played the move knight c3. D takes c4. As you can see, Gukesh thought like 7 minutes on this move, and I assume that it was already surprise for him to get this knight c3 from Prague. D takes c4, bishop g2, castle, knight c6. The point in this opening that black 2 with the pawn on c4, and he claims that everything is fine and there is no initiative for white. But of course the initiative is here, and like the center will be in white favor with d4, e4, and maybe some attacking ideas in king side. So let's see how Prague played it, because it was very interesting also to see this game and also to learn about this opening, because I think there are a lot of novelty that take place in this game. So a3 was played, bishop e7, e4. As you can see, Prague is playing very fast. A6 is the right move. 11 minutes for this move for Gukesh. Bishop e3. The point of bishop e3 is to play queen e2, the next move. Of course, to bring the rook on a d1, rook fe1, and somehow push d5 or e5. So b5 was played. Black, of course, wants to put the bishop on b7 and also to cover this pawn from queen e2. Queen e2 is played very fast. Bishop b7, rook a d1, very logical until now. Knight a5, and now Prague is playing another very strong move and very fast. Of course, he was until now in this preparation, d5. And Gukesh thought like 6 minutes and grabbed this pawn, and Prague playing the move e5. So Prague is already 2 pawns down, but as you can see, the pieces of white are more than okay, right? Knight on c3, very good. Bishop on e3, knight on f3, rook on d1, bishop g2. Queen is totally good in this position, and black's pieces are not so good because the knight is a little bit, like in the A row on A5 is not in the center. The bishop on B7 is doing a job, but but also I can't say that the bishop is just very good in a very good position. Bishop E7 is fine. Knight on F6 must go to E8. So the pieces, the black pieces are quite bad in this position, but in white favor here there is a very good attacking ideas like knight d4, for example, knight f5, or maybe f4, f5, f6. And Prague is playing another very interesting move, e6. Of course, it was also preparation. Prague spent until now only 9 minutes, and already have like 44 minutes above Gukesh. So here in this position, a lot of moves are okay for black. F takes e6 is fine. Bishop f4, for example. C6, something like queen e6 check, h8, knight e5, knight d6. Of course, to cover this square from the knight. I think here there are a lot of moves like maybe somehow to play like bishop c8, also a move. I assume knight d4, rook f6, bishop g5. Yeah, not so easy, right? Maybe c6 takes, knight takes, knight d6, queen d6, rook f1. Really interesting. Maybe knight b7. I don't know. No, knight d7, knight g7. So I can do it. Maybe bishop f8. Yeah. So it's really interesting position. I must admit that I also analyze this already. Um, so so after e6 there are a lot of moves. Yeah, f takes e6. One move, maybe c6. Another interesting move for white, for black, of course. Bishop f4. Like knight b3, maybe knight or knight c7. Yeah, the bishop on b7 is like a very very big pawn, and it's really interesting to see how much strong the attack for white in this position. So e6 was played, and Gukesh thought about 27 minutes and played the move f5. So the pawn on e6 is just unbelievable, right? He's very very strong, and because of this, Prague is playing very fast knight e5. He wants also to attack this pawn on d5, and also maybe to put the knight on f7 or maybe on d7. Very logical. Gukesh is playing the move knight f6. I think in this position, maybe the most logical move for me, I must admit, is the best move in this position is rook fe1, because all the pieces, all the white pieces are very good located, right? They are doing a great job, but the rook on f1 is not doing a great job, and you must, like, to bring the rook to the center, to e5, and the point is the knight will come to f7, bishop on d4, and this rook will do a great thing here to protect the pawn on e6. So rook fe1, for example, I think c6 is logical move. Knight f7, queen is e8, bishop d4. In some variations, you will see a sacrifice with bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight d5 takes, bishop takes. I'm not sure in this position, for example, after bishop c8, bishop takes. I think knight d5 is it's really interesting move. After c takes bishop d5, the next move will be maybe e7. Maybe, like in this position maybe knight e7 and knight d6, queen e7, knight takes f5, bishop d5, e7. It's really good for white. But Prague played in this position, like, also I must understand this move. Yeah, queen c2 is playing. After a lot of consideration here, 39 minutes took Prague play this move, and he's played the move queen c2. He wants to grab this pawn on f5, but I think the problem that is it's a little bit slow, because our rook f1 is bringing the last piece into the attack, and queen c2 it's a little bit, I'm not sure that I want to take this pawn on f5, right? So c6 was played, queen takes f5 and queen e8. So black um, just a little bit solve his problems, right? Also played the move c6. C6 will defend the pawn on d5. Bishop c8 will be the next move. Maybe knight b7, knight d6, and it seems that black has one pawn up, and there is no a good plan for white how to attack. So knight f7 was played. And in this position, I really was shocked by the move with the Gukesh, because Gukesh played the move bishop c8. Okay, I'm not shocked with this move, but what about rook f7? Because the knight on f7 is just very annoying, right? Take the knight, e takes f7, queen takes f7. The next moves will be very easy to play, right? Rook e8, bishop c8, knight b7, knight d6, knight e4, and the white pieces are not doing a good job, and black has a lot of options here. I think it's a really good position for black. But Gukesh played the move bishop c8. Of course, he wants to take on e6 maybe, right? Queen takes and queen takes f7. But after bishop e6, after bishop e6, maybe there is an opportunity to play knight h6 check, intermediate check, and after this to take the bishop on e6 and maybe the pawn on h6. So rook f1 was played by Prague. You can see on move number 20, Prague has 51 minutes against 24 minutes for Gukesh. Rook f1, knight b7, like we said, he wants to bring the knight back to the game. Bishop g5 was played by Prague. Rook a7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes d5. He sacrificed the bishop. Prague goes for all in with knight on d5, as we already saw in these variations that white sacrifice this bishop or a knight for these two pawns to bring these two rooks into the game. And now bishop e7, and this was the last unfortunately mistake by Praggnanandhaa. In this position, you can stop the video and think how white can draw this game. So I will give you 2-3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Knight h6. Knight h6 is a draw, because after king h8, of course, knight f7, king g8, knight h6. But if g takes h6, there is opportunity to play queen g4. And now after bishop g5, of course, if he's playing king h8, it's a queen d4 check, king g8. And now I'm not sure that white wants to repeat the draw, because also the opportunity to take on e7, queen takes e7, and queen takes a7. And this is really strange position. I'm not sure who is better in this position, but it's really exciting to see what happened. And after this move, queen g4, there is opportunity to play bishop g5, but f4 will follow, and this bishop will fall, and the rook and the knight are not into the game, so it's not so easy to understand who is better and who is playing for a win. But I think if Prague found this knight h6 move, I think the game will last very, like a few moves with a repetition here, or maybe on d4 h8, something like this. So yeah, let's see what Prague played in this position. He's played the move queen g4 and knight d8, and after knight d8 you see all the black pieces are doing a job, right? The rook is covering this row. The bishop is doing good here. The knight will took off from f7. The bishop is doing a great job to avoid this knight f6 check. Queen and rook also here to protect the king. And from this position, Black is just winning. Queen d4, rook b7, rook e4, bishop f6, bishop e7, queen c6, bishop c5, and the game was just over after rook f2. And there is no attack for white, and all the pieces are covering all the squares, and Gukesh won his first game in this candidates tournament. So unfortunately, Prague lost the game with the white pieces. As you already know, I'm a fan of Prague and I want him to win this championship. So let's move to the second game that was very surprisingly Hikaru Nakamura against Vidit, and it was really strange game. I must admit. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6. So the Berlin system in the Ruy Lopez, d3 was played, bishop c5. I can tell you that in these days I'm writing a book uh, in Ruy Lopez Spanish. In my book, I think the castle is the best move in this position. Knight e4, rook e1, knight d6, knight e5. Of course, it's like it's a drawish position. There are a lot of lines here. Bishop here, rook e1, like this one, and take, like bishop d4, I think knight d8, yeah, knight d4, bishop here takes, d6, yeah, a lot of interesting ideas here. f6, bishop h4. There are a lot of games here. Also, I played in this position some games with white pieces. But Hikaru Nakamura played the move d3. He didn't want to go for like a lot of theory. Of course, in this position also there is a very big theory after d3. But it's a game, like you're not exchanging a lot of pieces, and you have like a lot of plans here to attack in the king side, also into the center. So it's more than equal position. It's really unbalanced. So bishop c5, Black wants to play knight d4, c3 was played, castle d6, h3, knight d7. Until now it seems that they're playing very fast. d4 was played, c6. Interesting move by Vidit, because after d takes c5, take on b5, c takes d6, knight g6, and it looks like white took a pawn up, right? But I'm not sure it's so easy for white, because the next move will be bishop e6, queen b6, and rook d8. And it seems that black is doing fine, but I'm not sure. It seems that Vidit in this position knew what he's doing, and I think it was a part of his preparation. Maybe in this position here, knight g6 must play, maybe queen d3. I think bishop e6 seems good. Yeah, queen b5, queen d6. Yeah, black is more than okay here, because he is well developed. Yeah. So d3, like we saw, yeah, c6, bishop d3 was played, bishop b6, d takes e5 takes, knight takes e5, and Vidit is playing bishop h3. It seems that Vidit, of course, was well prepared, and Hikaru already waste like 40 minutes from his clock. Um, the point after g takes h3 is that Black has the brilliant move, queen b8. After knight c4, for example, there are queen g3, king h1, queen h3, king g1, and knight g4, and black is winning absolutely. So after bishop f4, for example, the move is bishop c7, bishop g3 takes, f4, bishop c7, and I think that the next move for black are very easy to play. Knight g6, rook d8, bishop b6, somehow to bring also the rook on a8 to the game, and it will be fine. So Hikaru played the move knight c4, bishop g4. You know, in this position, I remember that I saw this in live, and I was very surprised to see that white, you know, like this is the 12th move in the game, and white developed only his knight and the bishop, and of course did a castle, and black already also castled, also developed all his pieces. Um, Before putting the queen where somewhere, and also the rooks on d8 on e8, but all the minor pieces are already developed. And queen c2 was played, bishop c7 in this diagonal. It seems very logical, maybe somehow to bring the queen also in this diagonal and threat some checkmate ideas. e5 was played, knight d7, bishop h7, king h8, bishop d3, and just attack with all the power. Vidit. b5 was played, knight e3, knight e5, just shocking moments, I think, for Ricardo Nakamura. Bishop e2, and just f5 is playing. Vidit is just crushing with all his power. Hikaru with the black pieces, very fast in the opening. It's really strange to see Hikaru losing such games. f4, bishop b6, just bringing the knight for a present for Nakamura. F takes e5, just losing after knight d5. Bishop g4, knight e3. Yeah, it just losing. Takes, king h2, f takes g4, and the game is over. So king f2 was played by Hikaru, knight d5, rook h1, king g8, and of course these positions are just you know, like just crushing. King e1 takes on e3, take here, and in this position he just resigned Hikaru after knight f1. The next move will follow knight g3, of course, to take the rook on h1, and the game is over. Yeah, so it was very surprising game by Vidit and Hikaru. Hikaru, I think that he will do all his best to forget this moment in this candidate tournament, and I wish him luck to come over and, you know, like to forget it quickly and to play some good games in the next rounds. So let's move to the third game, third decisive game. Jan Nepomniachtchi, the one that, you know, like all of us remember how he lost also to Magnus Carlsen and also to Ding Liren. So let's see how he's managing to win Alireza Firouza from France. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and one more time the Berlin system in the Rui Lopez. d3, like Hikaru Nakamura, bishop c5, c3, castle, castle, d5 was played by Firouza. It seems that both of them knew what they are doing in the opening. Queen takes d5, bishop c4, queen d8. I think also queen d6 is one move in this position. After queen d8, b4 was played, bishop e7. I think also bishop b6 is fine, or maybe bishop d6 seems to be fine. But Firouza is playing bishop e7, knight bd2. The point is maybe to play like rook e1, knight e4, maybe knight f1, knight g3, a4, bishop g5, something like this. Also queen c2, knight e4 also has a chance to play like this. a6 was played by Firouza, a4, because black threats to play b5 and the pawn on d3 will fall. So a4 is a prophylactic move. Bishop f5, of course, wants to take the pawn. Queen c2, knight d5, and black wants to play the move knight f4 and also to attack this weak pawn on d3. Knight d4, very logical. Bishop g4. And I think this is really a really nice position and a nice move by Jan Nepomniachtchi. He played the move queen a2. Of course, I'm sure 100% it was um, one of these his preparations for this tournament. Queen a2, and the point is that he wants to put also the queen and also the bishop in this very important diagonal. Knight b6 was played and bishop b3. As you see, white just don't afraid to open the king. What is going on after queen d3? This is a good question. So I think after queen d3, the point is white is playing knight fg5, bishop g5, knight takes g5, and for example bishop h5, and I think in this position maybe bishop c2, queen c3, bishop h7, king h8, something like bishop a3 maybe, or maybe bishop e4. I think maybe bishop a3, it's interesting, rook c1, b5. It's really double-edged position, but it's interesting to see what Jan Nepomniachtchi has in his pocket on these lines. So, but Firouza decided to take this knight on f3. He didn't want to let Nepomniachtchi bring this knight on g5. So bishop f3, g takes f3, and queen d1, d3. Sorry. King g2 protect the pawn. Queen d7, rook d1. Very logical by Nepomniachtchi. Queen e8 was played, and I think in this position Firouza already played by himself. And this position, I must give you 1 or 2 minutes to think. So I recommend you to stop the video and think which move Jan Nepomniachtchi played in this position. I think that like the the very common move that you must think about is just bishop e3, for example, to develop a bishop. Also, to connect between the rooks. Maybe the next move will be rook d2, rook d1, something like this. But Nepomniachtchi is playing the move h4. It's really a brilliant move. I like such moves. What is going on after bishop h4? You must ask. But rook h1, bishop e7, for example, and just queen c2, and it just checkmate, right? Because for example h6, bishop takes, of course, and if black is playing g6, it's just queen d2 and queen h6, and it just game over. The white pieces are just unbelievable located, and the black king is just not safe at all. The knight is the black knights are not coming to help the king, and it's game over. So in this position after h4, Firouza didn't take the pawn on h4. He played the move. Knight c8. Oh, what is going on? Yeah, knight c8. h5, white wants to attack with the pawn, who wants to bring the pawn to h6. Firouza playing the move king h8, h6 until the end. I like to play with this h pawn. A lot of like games that I'm using to play such ideas because I really like this a pawn on h pawn to attack and to bring them until the end, and maybe someday will bring us the win. So g5 was played by Alireza, and now queen d2. Nepomniachtchi thought like 25 minutes for queen d2 move, and it was very interesting move by him because he understands that the queen on a2 is not doing a lot now because the king is already on h8, and maybe he wants also to attack on g5 in the next future, also maybe to bring the queen on d7 and like the 7 rank, also maybe queen d5 in such positions. So queen d2 is interesting move. Knight d6 was played and bishop b2. Also, don't forget that after bishop b2 here, the queen is trapped here. So white wants to bring the queen in order to develop the bishop in a good square. So knight d6, bishop b2 was played, and knight f5. Of course, knight didn't want to take the h6 pawn because it will help white to attack in kings. Queen d7 was played, knight h4, king f1, f5. Unbelievable position, right? The king on f1, the f3 pawn is under attack. If you want to ask about the knight takes f3, I think it's a very logical move to play. Queen takes e7, maybe f5, knight d6, queen h5 maybe. Wow, it's really not easy to play here. Maybe bishop d5. I don't know. I don't know. It's really not a simple position to play. So I'm not sure what black needs to play. Maybe g4. No, g4 no. Maybe queen h1, king e2, knight g1. White can't take this knight because on d5. I don't know. Maybe king f1, knight 3, and maybe it's a draw. I really don't know. But it's an interesting line here to calculate. So Alireza played the move f5. Knight g3 was played by Jan, and knight takes f3. He took now the pawn and b5. You see, it's really strange how Nepomniachtchi is just playing with the initiative, right? He don't give so much attention for the pawns here. He wants to get the initiative for an attack. The king on h8 is weak, and maybe if the diagonal a1 on h8 will open, it will not be easy for black to defend this. So f4 was played by Alireza. Knight e4, very logical, I think. Of course, not to bring him to take this knight. For example, b takes c6, f takes g3 is looking bad, really bad. Knight h2, rook f2. It's not so simple to defend here for white. Maybe c takes b7. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe knight h4. You can see this line: queen, knight f2, and this is checkmate, right? Or here take on a8, and the next move will be knight f3, knight g2, and it seems to be a checkmate. And so Nepomniachtchi played the move knight e4, knight a5, bishop e6, queen g6, queen e7. So I think that queen g6 was the mistake, if I'm not mistaken. I think rook d8 was a great move for black. Queen takes c7 and maybe somehow g4 to get some initiative here for black, because bishop g4 is not working because knight h2 and take the bishop, and black maybe wants to play the move queen h4, maybe g3, somehow um, to open white's king. So in this position, Alireza played the move queen g6, and now white took the bishop on e7. Black took the pawn on h6. Bishop f7 was played. Queen h3, king e2, queen f5, bishop d5. Very accurate, I think, with Nepomniachtchi. Rook f a8, queen c7, queen g4, king d3. Unbelievable move, unbelievable. Jan Nepomniachtchi is playing just incredible. King into the center from g1 to d3 with no afraid from anything. Maybe this is the new challenger for Ding Liren. King d3, unbelievable move by Jan Nepomniachtchi. Rook d8, c4, also opening this diagonal for the bishop. Rook d5, c takes d5, queen h3, and now knight g3. Also a very beautiful move. After f takes g3, just bishop e5, knight takes e5, queen takes e5, king g8, and just queen g5, king h8, queen e5, king g8, and queen g3. And of course, this endgame is winning for white. So after knight g3 was played knight c4 with 10 seconds on the clock. Queen takes c4, fj, fj, take, rook c8, rook h1, and of course these positions are lost, and Alireza Firouza resigned his game, and Nepomniachtchi with 1.5 points out of 2, and maybe we will see another match between Dingelrang against Jan Nepomniachtchi. So it is only the second round for this tournament, so it's more than far away to say that Jan Nepomniachtchi will be the next challenger for Dingelrang, but as you know, Jan has a lot of confidence. He's playing a lot of times in these candidate tournaments. He has a lot of winning here, and maybe he will do it. Maybe he will do it. Let's move to the 4 decisive game in this round. It's unbelievable. 4 decisive games. Caruana, Fabiano from US against Abasov from Azerbaijan. As you know, the second of Abasov is the Grandmaster, the best player in Azerbaijan, Shahryar Mamidyarov, the strongest players there with Rajabov. So let's see how Fabiano won the game. So e4, c5, knight e3, knight c6, bishop b5. Jerusalem opening, and now black plays the move e5. So after bishop b5 there are several options, of course. g6 is the main line, e6, d6, and e5 like Abasov played. After g6, the main move is castle, bishop g7, rook e1, knight f6, c3, castle. There is d4, h3, a lot of moves in this position. Also, here there are opportunity to play knight c3, bishop c6 also. In this position also bishop c6 is kind of variations here. b takes c6, d4 takes, knight f6, e5, knight e5, if I'm not remember. If I remember it right, correct, c4, or maybe castle, and after is c4 and queen h4, something like this, I remember. But here the main line is d takes c6, h3, and d3, and black is playing like bishop g7, for example, d3, knight f6, castle, is playing castle, knight c3, knight d7, b6, e5, rook e8, rook f8, rook and knight e6, knight d4. This is the main ideas for black. And white wants to play bishop e3, queen d2, bishop h6. After taking the bishop on g7, white extremely playing knight h2, f4, and starting to play on this file. So Abasov played the move e5, castle, bishop d6, and if I'm not remember, if I remember correct, in my preparation here in white, the main move is d4, and after knight takes d4, knight takes d4, c takes d4, c3. This is the main line here, if I remember it correctly. But Caruana played the move d3. It's also interesting line. Knight c3, castle, and h3. a6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and knight h4. So the main idea for Caruana is somehow to play maybe bishop g5, queen f3, knight f5, also maybe to push f4. So let's see how he does it. Rook e8, queen f3, wants to play the move knight f5 and bishop g5. So g6 is protecting from it. Bishop g5, very logical, bishop e7, and queen e3. So white wants to push f4 and starting to play on this file. Knight h5 was played. Black just offers white to exchange the bishops. White must agree to this proposal. Knight f3, b6, a3. Maybe white wants to push b4 because these pawns are very weak. b5 was played. I think, and now of course b4 is not a threat because c takes, a takes, and queen takes, so it's bad. And now Fabiano played the move knight e2 in order to move the knight from f3 and to push f4. So f6, knight d2, very logical. Also, a move here is knight b3, so bishop e6 is covering this square. f4 was played, take, 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 take. And in this position, I think, in a human perspective, it's really, really nice to play with the white pieces because white has a lot of good moves and developing moves like queen f2, rook a f1, and this is what Caruana is playing. And now we play the move b4, very very strong move. I think the main idea is to have this very strong square to beat also here on a5, also on c5, and of course queen takes b4 is very bad after e5 and take here, and the knight will follow e4, g5. It's really really bad. So he took on b4 and played the move rook a8. He wants maybe to push a5 because he didn't feel like it's good for him to bring these squares for white. So white played king h1, a5 takes. Yes, he didn't take because after rook takes a5, I think maybe he didn't want to let e5, f5, and knight e5, knight e4, sorry. And now white has a lot of opportunity to play, for example, knight f6, rook h4, or maybe queen h4, and attacking ideas here. And this rook on a5 is just not in the game, right? So I think this is the way that Abasov played, afraid to play because so also I think after rook a5 maybe queen b6 was interesting move by rook a2, for example, queen c6, oh sorry, rook c8, and first queen takes b5 and rook c2, maybe rook f6 here, rook d2, queen e5, it's working, so maybe queen takes f6 here, takes knight f3, I don't know, maybe here it's white. White is doing okay. Maybe here bishop h3 to cover this square. After d takes, rook d2 seems not good. So maybe here, or maybe here rook f7 takes, and maybe somehow to draw this position by white. So maybe, like maybe queen b6 is not good. Maybe e5, this is the way for white. This is what Fabiano thought to play in this position. So Abasov played the move c5 instead to play rook takes a5, rook a1 to cover and defend his pawn on a5, rook a6, e5 was played. Very very strong move. I like it because now after f takes e5, rook takes f8, queen takes f8, take on f8 I thought, and to play knight e4. It's really really seems to be good. For white, yeah, so rook a6 was played, e5, f5, and c4. Very very strong move because white wants to play the knight b3 move and to attack the pawn on c5. After b4, for example, knight b3, it's really seems to be good. After rook c8, white will play somewhere g4, maybe somewhere to play king h2, like slowly prepare his position for attack with d4 somehow, somewhere, or g4, and it seems good for white. So f5, c4, he took the pawn on c4, d takes c4, rook a8, wants to grab the pawn on a5, knight b3 is covering it, and also attacking on c5, and g5 was played by Blake. It seems that Blake didn't have the the calm here, and also open his king. Queen g3 was played, h6, rook f2. White is like very very slow. want to see how black will have some like some mistake in this position, because it's really not easy to find moves for black side. So bishop takes c4, rook takes f5, and now the king on g7 is very very weak, and bishop takes b3, queen takes b3, and like this square is really weak. Rook f1, rook f7, and game is over. So rook a5, rook f1, king h8, and rook f7. And this was the last game in this round. Fabiano Caruana won his first game in this candidate tournament, and Abasov, the unbelievable player that bring all the way from the World Cup, is losing his first game in this tournament. But I really, really want to tell you that I really like his play, because he's playing, like he's down, he's below like 100 rating from each one of the players here. But I want him to win one game or two games. He can do it. He can do it, and I hope for him to have the confidence to beat them. So Abasov, you have time to come over from it, and well done. So four decisive games in this second round. Fabiano Caruana won his game. Yanni Nepomniachtchi won his game also with white pieces against Firouza. Hikaru Nakamura lost his game against Vidit with white pieces, and Prague with white pieces in the Catalan variation, which sacrificed a lot of pawns and a bishop, losing to Gukesh, his teammate in India. And that's it. This is the round two. I hope you enjoy. I hope you learn something. And I really, really want to tell you, please subscribe my channel and share with your friends. It really will help me to improve my skills, and to enjoy with you guys. So thank you very much. Until the next time. Until the next time. Goodbye. Bye bye.